Ezekiel and Ishmael, in accordance with your parents' wishes, you may step out into the hall and pray for our souls.
This video is about the 2022 school shootings. I'm going to be going over the 51 school shootings that happened throughout the United States in 2022.
17-year-old Fraquan Wright and 16-year-old Nyreek Williams are both charged with 2 counts of attempted murder, aggravated battery, and aggravated battery on school grounds. A 15-year-old was also charged, but we will only know that person's name if the court decides to charge him as an adult.
The tan Buick stopped behind the dark sedan. At that time, a black male wearing a puffy black jacket with letters on the front side of the coat, black pants, black shoes, and wearing a black and gray mask, a gator-type mask, exited the rear driver's side of the tan Buick. He was holding a handgun. Through the investigation, this individual was identified as Nyreek Williams. Next, a black male wearing a black hoodie, black mask, multicolored red underwear, teal socks, and retro Jordan 4 shoes, exited the front passenger side of the tan Buick. He was also holding a handgun. Through the investigation, this individual was identified as Fraquan Wright. Williams and Wright approached the sedan from the rear passenger side. Williams approached the dark sedan first and, raising the gun to the passenger side window, fired the weapon into the dark sedan. Wright approached second and fired into the passenger side of the dark sedan.
The teen accused of shooting a student at Seminole High School last month will now be charged as an adult. This is the new mug for 16-year-old Daravius Smith. Yesterday, a judge signed an order transferring Smith's case from juvenile court to adult court. According to the state attorney's office, Smith is facing a list of charges, including first-degree premeditated murder with a firearm. Prosecutors say he shot 18-year-old Javon McIntyre 3 times after the teens had a confrontation on campus, which caused an hours-long lockdown on January 19. Smith had his first appearance in front of a Seminole County juvenile judge the following day, where we caught up with the victim's family members.
We're just trying to get to the bottom of this, to get justice for our family.
As for McIntyre, he received surgery last month after the shooting, and we learned he is recovering from his injuries.
Investigators say 15-year-old Marquise Campbell was leaving Oliver Citywide on January 19, 2022, to get into a school van that would take him home. They say surveillance video showed 18-year-old Eugene Watson approach the van with 17-year-old Brandon Watson not far behind his brother. Eugene then allegedly fires 2 shots into the van. Officers later briefly detained Brandon Watson, who they say appeared out of breath. When they asked him why, they say he told them he had asthma. Now, witnesses later told detectives that was not true. Also that day, detectives found clothes dumped nearby that matched those that one of the suspects could be seen wearing in the surveillance video. Inside a jacket was the revolver. Through interviews, investigators learned that the Watson brothers had been in at least 3 fights with Campbell in the months leading up to Campbell's death. The tension apparently over previous murders of friends and relatives. Now, a spokesperson for Pittsburgh Public Schools say the brothers never attended Oliver Citywide, and they had not been enrolled in Pittsburgh Public Schools since December 2019.
The victim in this case is a 10th grade at Magruder High School, 15-year-old DeAndre Thomas. Back when the shooting happened in January afterward, her son was on life support for 3 weeks. Prosecutors say he was in a coma, and he's actually expected to undergo another intense surgery, his 10th surgery this summer. This is a new photo of the suspect in the case, 17-year-old Stephen Alston. Since the judge ruled his case will not be transferred to the juvenile system today, court documents are also available to the public. These documents say Alston told police he took the handgun to school because he was worried he was going to get jumped. The 17-year-old student admitted to going into the high school bathroom armed, claiming that the victim was allegedly there with friends waiting.
This is a very disappointing decision. Stephen is a young man who's never been in any trouble. The victim in this case admitted that he had beaten up my client several times. That was played as evidence in the motion. We'll have to deal with that when the time comes.
I think this went beyond, I wouldn't characterize this as a classic bullying case.
Police and prosecutors had said at the time that Alston allegedly pointed a 9mm ghost gun at Thomas's head and that the gun went off as Thomas tried to push the gun away. Alston then reportedly hid in a classroom as the school went on lockdown, and he took the gun apart there. He was found some 2 hours later. The judge said today that he found Alston displayed adult-like behavior, believing the shooting was premeditated. As he was reviewing different factors in the case, the state's attorney told Fox 5 another reason he feels Alston should remain charged as an adult.
19-year-old Amari Goodall faces a single count of first-degree reckless homicide tied to the January 29th shooting outside of Beloit Memorial High School, which killed 19-year-old Jayon Broomfield.
Prosecutors charged 2 young men with murder today in the school shooting that killed 15-year-old Jamari Rice. Police say that the 2 men facing charges were classmates of Rice, along with the 2 others who were hurt. The shooting happened Tuesday at the South Education Center in Richfield. WCCO's Aaron Hassanzadeh explains what led up to the shooting.
Jamari Rice was shot and killed just outside of his new school Tuesday. Fellow students 18-year-old Fernando Valdez Alvarez and 19-year-old Alfredo Rosario Solis both face 1 count of second-degree murder and 2 counts of second-degree attempted murder in connection to his death. Court documents show Tuesday's parking lot altercation escalated with a punch. One of the victims told police they walked out of the school with Rice and another student following Valdez Alvarez and Solis. The student, who is now in critical condition at HCMC, punched Solis 1 time. Documents say that's when Valdez Alvarez started shooting at him, Rice, and a 3rd student before driving off.
Look, there they go. In this video obtained by 12 News, you can see the moments just before a gunman fires multiple times into a crowd outside of Rufus King High School in Milwaukee. It happened on February 1st after a basketball game inside. This newly released video shows 2 girls appear to get into a verbal argument outside. Milwaukee Police Chief Jeffrey Norman told 12 News in February the argument started on social media. At some point, video shows the argument turns physical, with more people jumping in. Then the sound of gunshots. Milwaukee police identified the gunman as 35-year-old Devin Joby. Investigators say Joby's niece called him to the school after a fight. That's when prosecutors say he drove to Rufus King and shot at the ground multiple times, bullet fragments hitting 5 people, including his niece.
This man who shot 5 kids outside of a high school, including his niece, only got 2 years probation.
And new this morning, a teenager was shot at a basketball game at Winona High School last night. Now, he is expected to be okay, but was taken to Children's Hospital. Take a look. This was the scene right after all of this happened at the Winona versus Bessemer City basketball game. Birmingham police, you can see there, investigating. Now, they say the 16-year-old was caught in crossfire and shot in the leg as the game ended. Police say someone started shooting outside of the gymnasium just after 9 o'clock last night. The crowd was directed back inside of the gym and no others injuries were reported. Now, police are still searching for a suspect. If you have any information, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers. This is the 3rd teenager to be shot in Birmingham this year.
New information about Tuesday's shooting at Catonsville High School. Police arrested 18-year-old Sean Eric Potter and a 16-year-old 9th grader, both students at the school. According to the statement of charges, the victim, who was found in the school's parking lot, had been there with some friends and other students when a fight broke out. Potter was identified as the driver of a white Volvo registered to his mother that was also in the parking lot. Surveillance video shows the car driving up to the victim and then the 16-year-old suspect getting out of the car and into a fight with the victim, who ends up shot. 2 students jump on back of the white Volvo. The juvenile gets back in as well and then flees the scene. 2 9mm cartridge casings were found there as well. This same Volvo is caught later in the day dropping off what's believed to be a second shooting victim suffering a wound to the head to St. Agnes Hospital.
I've spoken to this young man, I've spoken to his family, and he is steadfast on his innocence. And so all that will obviously come out as we do further investigation into this matter.
Attorney Rodney Gray, who's representing Sean Potter, says he is anxious to see that surveillance video from the scene, which he believes may clear his client of the most serious wrongdoing. Meanwhile, 11 News has learned Potter has a case pending for theft in Howard County. As far as the 9th grade juvenile, he does have a juvenile record, which includes an assault case. Both were denied bail.
David Vasquez doesn't know all the details of what happened, but he knows his 10-year-old son in the 4th grade at Minneapolis' Sheridan Elementary School was shaken up after school on Wednesday.
He's crying. He's very nervous because I'm home. So I don't know. I go to a hospital maybe with him.
Where was your son sitting on the bus when this happened?
He's next to the bus driver. So that somebody stopped with a car in front of the bus and shot him.
The bus driver was rushed to a hospital and is expected to survive. Vasquez says his son's stop is the last stop on the driver's route, and there were 2 other young students on board when shots were fired.
Take a good look at this picture. It may be blurry, but police say this is the person they're searching for, accused of shooting a security guard outside McKinley High School Wednesday. And we just learned there's a 3rd victim now, a 13-year-old boy grazed by one of those bullets. After dismissal at McKinley around 3:45, a fight erupted in the parking lot.
There was a brewing dispute, for lack of a better phrase, amongst some group of kids.
These are photos of some of the fights posted the month before the shooting at McKinley. This was brewing for weeks before the shooting and the stabbings. People got stabbed. A kid got stabbed 10 times. A security guard got shot. What the hell is going on with these teenagers?
15 to 25 students were there when that 14-year-old student was stabbed 10 times. As this unfolded, a gunman shot a school security guard who rushed over to help. He was hit in the leg.
He is in good spirits and looking forward to coming back to work as soon as possible.
Police now hoping that 13-year-old who was grazed by gunfire can help them find the gunman. Meantime, a 17-year-old is now locked up, charged with attempted murder and assault in connection to the stabbing, and more arrests are expected.
Witnesses testified about what they say happened inside this office at Olathe East High School on March 4th of 2022.
Here's the door.
Assistant principals Leslie Simons and Caleb Stoppel say they pulled 18-year-old Jaylon Elmore out of class and to the office after hearing rumors he had a gun in his backpack.
Do you recognize it as being the gun?
They say they repeatedly told Elmore they needed to search his bag. Each time, they say Elmore told them no.
Jalen kept saying, no, I'll just go home.
Then Stoppel says he texted their school resource officer, Eric Clark, to come to his office immediately.
He had drawn a handgun from his backpack and just started firing directly at me.
I could see Officer Clark's reaction with each hit.
I see the muzzle flash, I can hear the sound of the gun firing. I can feel bullets hitting me.
Officer Clark says he drew his gun and returned fire.
It all happened so fast that it was bang, bang, they were down.
The next thing I remember is I am on top of Jalen and I'm using my weight to subdue him.
Clark, Elmore, and Stoppel had all been shot.
Elmore has pled not guilty on all 4 counts, including 2 felony counts of attempted capital murder and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, plus 2 misdemeanor counts involving criminal use of a weapon.
6 teenagers are charged with first-degree murder.
Investigators now believe the tragic shooting outside East High School yesterday afternoon was likely a gang-related killing. Police say 15-year-old Jose Lopez of Des Moines was likely the target of the shooting. He died at the scene. Police believe 2 other teens wounded by gunfire may have been bystanders.
And one parent, Chastity Huffman, has started a petition on change.org to bring back school resource officers.
I think it would help, and we really need to have these officers or somebody back in the schools to help protect our children.
The school board voted to end the program, saying students of color were disproportionately penalized. But some parents say the presence of officers will keep children safe.
And this is precisely my problem with the woke shit. Children of color are being disproportionately impacted. Let's remove school resource officers that are there to protect the children, so that way we don't offend the poor people of color. So because some woke parents that probably spoke out against these officers being in the school, now you had this instance happen where this gang rivalry shit took place right on school grounds. There's a high chance that the presence of officers on school grounds may have prevented this.
8 teenagers are charged as adults in this case. 2 more are charged as juveniles.
18-year-old Nathaniel Spikes and 18-year-old LaDerrick Sessions standing before a judge Thursday.
Sir, you are ordered to stay away from North Gardens High School and these victims, no contact.
The duo, charged with attempted murder in the first degree, possession of a firearm, and eluding police, just to name a few, after a shooting at North Gardens High School.
They said it was like a machine gun.
A Miami Gardens police officer was in the area of the school around 1:30 p.m. when he saw a blue 2021 four-door Kia driving in the school's parking lot, then started shooting. The suspect tried fleeing police. They were caught and arrested. As a result of the shooting, 3 people were injured. Inside the car, police found an extended Glock magazine and a rifle. And back at the school, multiple cases were found, some even penetrating the walls of the school, hitting students.
Superintendent Michael Hinojosa briefed reporters at a news conference called on short notice about the Wednesday night shooting involving a player on the Kimball High School boys basketball team. San Antonio police arrested 18-year-old Kyron Henderson after police say he fired a gun on board the team's charter bus, injuring an 18-year-old student trainer in the leg.
On the charter bus, the gun discharged. I don't have any details about how the gun discharged, if it was an accident or what happened. All I know is the gun discharged and one of our students was injured, and she was taken to the hospital immediately.
Police now say it appears the shooting was accidental as Henderson was moving the gun inside a bag. He is charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and possession of a firearm on school property, both felonies.
Police tape strung across the Dunbar High School campus in East Baltimore this afternoon. Outside near the gym, police say this is where an 18-year-old student was shot.
And that's when he told us, oh my God, somebody got shot.
Word at school spread quickly. Police say the shooting happened around 3:20 minutes before closing bell.
It frustrates all of us. We were all disgusted by it.
Police Commissioner Michael Harrison joining Mayor Brandon Scott and Baltimore Chief of Schools Police condemning the shooting. It comes after another violent weekend across the city.
It's classic conflict resolution. You have, whether they knew each other or not, 2 groups and something emerges between them, and it's about conflict and the decision to solve it with gun violence.
Police say they don't know if the unknown group of people were students. They're now looking into surrounding security footage for more clues.
There's a lot of cameras out here, so hopefully we can identify somebody.
Police say the student was taken to the hospital and will be okay.
A teacher and a student shot outside the Tech Boston Academy in Dorchester.
Both victims were in the parking lot of Tech Boston Academy preparing for a school event when a suspect opened fire, striking both victims.
Boston police say the victims, both male, are a 17-year-old student and a 31-year-old teacher, both at Tech Boston. They were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The shooting happened hours after school had been dismissed at around 5:40 p.m.
This is a very concerning and disturbing set of circumstances. Schools are supposed to be a safe haven for our students and our teachers, not a place where they're subjected to brazen and random acts of violence.
Police say 2 high school students were shot outside of the Eisenhower High School near the school's stadium. So here's what we know.
The city's police chief right now says around 3 this afternoon there was some sort of argument before shots were fired. He said 2 students were shot, an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old. The 16-year-old right now is in critical condition while the 18-year-old is in stable condition. At last check, the suspects were still on the loose, although police say they do have good leads. At this point, also, we don't know of a motive, but police believe it was gang-related.
Police arrested Malachi Huggins for shooting a teen outside of Oakdale Elementary. Now, the 16-year-old victim was taken to the hospital to be treated. Sources telling Channel 9 the 2 were fighting over a gun. Now, it was a teacher workday, so students were not in class.
All right, imagine having someone random, a kid at that, showing up to your front door in a panic. Well, this happened on Thursday to Elaine Griffin.
He came and he rung the doorbell, and he was just saying that he was scared that there was some shooting at the school. and he was just begging for us to let him in, but wasn't no one at home.
Elaine wasn't home at the time, but was able to communicate for an extended period with him through her doorbell camera. Now, we've concealed the boy's identity because he's a minor. In the video, the boy tells Elaine a shooting happened at his school, that he ran and was afraid.
He just kept asking to come in, that he was scared, and he asked me what I called his father. So I told him I wasn't there to let him in, but if he give me the number, I would call him.
So that's what Elaine did, called his father. Not long after having a conversation with the father and hanging up the phone, Elaine says something caught her attention.
As I watched him and on my doorbell, he just seemed very nervous, so I was just thinking to myself, I wondered, did he have something to do with it?
Shortly after, Elaine got a call back from the father's number.
So when I answered the phone, it was the detective, and he just asked me what did the young man have on and describe him to them. So after I told him, he just asked me to not to tell him that they was talking to me. So I didn't. I told him I wouldn't say anything.
Turns out it was the 12-year-old boy police say shot and killed Jamari Jackson at Tanglewood Middle School shortly before arriving to the house. After Elaine gave a description to detectives, they came looking for him.
When they found him, it's an opening on this side of the deck, and he was up under there.
Take a look under here. This is the deck where the 12-year-old boy was hiding after climbing on a bench to hop over to the other side, leaving behind this footprint. Police eventually taking him into custody.
14-year-old Jamari Crosby is charged with the April 5th shooting inside Erie High School that left one student wounded. Crosby appeared before Judge Drusilla this morning in a 2-hour hearing that would determine how he will be tried in court. The defendant will be tried as an adult.
6 months before police say he set up a sniper's nest in Northwest Washington, 23-year-old Raymond Spencer lived here in a quiet new apartment complex in Fairfax County. Fairfax police tell 7 News they were called to Spencer's apartment just once before Friday's shooting. In September 2021, they came here for a noise complaint. The images from the 23-year-old's D.C. sniper's nest are a stark contrast to what can be found about his life. Police say he fired more than 100 rounds from multiple weapons. One police believe Spencer made himself a so-called ghost gun, where pieces of the weapon are bought separately to avoid scrutiny. Police are also looking into Spencer's online activity, including his Wikipedia page edits. He edited a page for a Parkland, Florida school shooting survivor and one for D.C.'s Edmund Burke School in the hour before shooting started, police say. On the anonymous online forum 4chan, a user calling themselves Raymond Spencer posted this picture Friday, also writing, "Dear God, please forgive me," and waiting for police to catch up with me.
The 17-year-old accused of shooting a Heights High School student made a first court appearance today. 17-year-old Alex Owiesi is currently charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon for the May 12th shooting that left an HISD student with a gunshot wound to the hand. He is also facing 2 additional charges for aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon that involved 2 Heights High School students on March 7th of this year. Now, this morning's appearance was for an unlawful carry charge for allegedly having a loaded AK pistol in his car when police did a search of the vehicle during his arrest. The judge found probable cause in this incident and reset his case for a later date. OESC's bond remains at $210,000 for all of the charges. If he bonds out, the judge ordered he be under 24-hour house arrest and wear a GPS monitor.
A scary and emotional day at Disney Magnet School yesterday when a loaded gun accidentally fired inside an 8-year-old boy's backpack, injuring another student. The 8-year-old brought the loaded gun to school after prosecutors say he found it under his mother's bed. Tatanina Kelly is now held responsible and charged with 3 counts of misdemeanor child endangerment.
I'm not surprised. You can't leave prescription medicine near little children. You can't leave sharp objects, and certainly you shouldn't leave loaded guns. That's just a recipe for disaster.
Chicago-Kent College of Law professor Harold Krentz says child endangerment laws exist to protect those who are young and defenseless. Kelly appeared in bond court today where a judge accused the 28-year-old mother of being supremely negligent. He said, quote, "We are inches away, possibly centimeters away from a very different case and a very different tragedy." Despite no criminal record and legal ownership of the gun, Kelly was held on a $10,000 bond.
The judge's hope would be that people take this seriously, they see it in the news, and they take steps to make sure those guns are protected.
The 7-year-old injured Disney student was taken to the hospital in good condition. The bullet grazed the boy's abdomen.
Investigators have arrested 2 young men in connection to the shooting that happened in May as a graduation ceremony for Crossroads Alternative High School was getting out. Shakir Abdul-Wahab and Jackie Hill, both 18, were leaving the area in a group when investigators say people inside this white Hyundai Sonata opened fire on them. The 18-year-olds appeared in court Monday, both charged with carrying a concealed weapon and having a firearm in a weapon-free school zone. Investigators believe it was Abdul-Wahab who returned fire on the vehicle after being targeted. A Kent County detective testified that he already knew of Abdul-Wahab after identifying him as being involved in a cell phone store robbery case he previously worked in 2020.
At number 27 is the Uvalde school shooting. This is the 3rd worst school shooting in U.S. history.
Uvalde, Texas. The 18-year-old gunman who opened fire at a Texas elementary school, killing at least 19 kids and 2 adults, bought 2 assault rifles on his birthday and appeared to send some ominous Instagram messages just hours before the massacre. Salvador Ramos shot his grandmother, then crashed his car near Robb Elementary School in Uvalde at about 11:30 a.m. local time on Tuesday.
A call for peace on the steps of Oakland City Hall.
A 13-year-old shot by a 12-year-old at school here in Oakland. Friends, our biggest problem in Oakland is not bullets, it's apathy.
That incident happened at Madison Park Academy Monday. This incident is the latest in a series of violent episodes across Oakland. Now community leaders are asking everyone to help stop this type of violence.
The community has got to come together and be a collective voice to move the city in a different direction because the violence has got to stop.
In a statement, OEA says educators have major concerns over the resources that are readily available to support the needs of our students. Our public schools should be safe havens for students free from the fear of gun violence. Oakland Unified was one of the first school districts to disband its police force following the death of George Floyd. But community leaders Tuesday say this is not about a lack of police, but a community that is not showing enough compassion.
See, these are the types of policies that harm our children. Of course, the presence of police is going to deter children from bringing weapons to school. There might not be this end-all solution, but this is something that could help. So why take away the police?
You got a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old in distress. No amount of policing gonna stop that. We talking about, let's really talk about what it means to have a whole community, a wholesome community. We're looking for solutions, and we're looking for people who say those children matter.
It was heart-wrenching, it was heartbreaking, it was devastating, it was tragic, it was all of that.
An entire community from Mervo High to surrounding neighborhoods is in mourning after Jeremiah Brogdon, a 17-year-old student with a promising future, was gunned down outside the school. Doctors later pronounced him dead at Johns Hopkins. Brogdon was a big brother, a son, friend, and his most recent and perhaps most important role was father to a newborn. But all of that ended Friday when police say a student from another city school confronted him in a parking lot at Mervo High. Investigators believe as the argument intensified, that student pulled out a gun and shot Brogdon multiple times. Brogdon was shot just hours before his first football game of the season. His former coach said he had the dreams and talent to make it to the NFL one day. The teen suspect has not been identified. He's being held without bail.
911, you need police, fire, or ambulance.
We need emergency at Josie, Hall Code 1607. We have a young man shot.
Shots fired, man down.
The guy, he ran down to this address. I don't know.
All amid a crowd of people celebrating after T.W. Josie's homecoming football game, leaving 2 people injured. A similar scene played out Friday night at Laney High School's game against Thompson, which was suspended in the 3rd quarter. Investigators say no injuries reported there. Meanwhile, more events are coming up, leaving some parents wondering should they send their kids to ball games.
If my kid wanted to go to the game this weekend, I would be very apprehensive. Nah, I'm lying. I would say no.
The case against 4 people arrested for the mass shooting outside Roxborough High School last fall will go to trial. That was the outcome of today's preliminary hearing for 21-year-old Yasim Bivens, 15-year-old Troy Fletcher, 17-year-old Zaid Jones, and 16-year-old Salim Miller. All as 16-year-old Dayron Bernie Thorne and a 6th unnamed suspect remain on the loose. It was September 27th of last year when 5 gunmen opened fire on a group of high school football players outside Roxborough High School following a scrimmage. 4 teenagers were wounded. A 5th, 14-year-old Nicholas Elizalde, was killed. Meanwhile, Zaid Jones and Troy Fletcher are also being tried for a separate murder that occurred in North Philadelphia the day before the Roxborough shooting. As surveillance video of the shootings was played in court, some of the victims' family members started becoming emotional and left the courtroom. A short time later, at least one of those families got into a screaming match with one of the suspects' families out in the hallway, but sheriff's deputies were quickly able to separate the 2 sides.
Gunshot after gunshot was fired into the entrance of Rudsdale High School in Oakland Wednesday, and Oakland police are still piecing together some important facts. They say at least 2 shooters, possibly more, walked into the school and fired 30 rounds. Police now say the shooting was gang-related, but wouldn't say who may have been involved. The suspects still haven't been arrested. Of the 6 people who were shot Wednesday, police say 2 of the victims were students, 1 was a guard, 1 a counselor, and 2 other staff. Oakland police said there have been other violent incidents at the school in recent weeks. They say they responded to a stabbing on campus last month.
Law enforcement sources tell the ABC7 I-Team Oakland police investigators have obtained text messages from the shooting victims' phones in which Rudsdale school officials tell them not to cooperate with police. Former Oakland City Council President Ignacio de la Fuente tells me his connections inside the police department tell him Rudsdale school officials have a history of failing to protect students, and that Oakland Unified has not done enough either.
If you remember, the school district used to have their own police. Then OPD was serving some of the school campuses. They actually threw them out because they didn't want uniformed police officers. In their campuses. These things happen because we allow them to happen.
And my law enforcement sources tell me this is part of a disturbing pattern by officials at that school. A lack of cooperation with police, especially after one troubling incident just a few weeks ago.
A kid was stabbed. He was bleeding. He was pistol whipped. A gun was discovered at school, and yet the school district did nothing about it.
Police confirm in August a student was stabbed and pistol whipped at the school. And my police sources tell me that Rudsdale obstructed the investigation. The school officials recovered the gun used in the attack, but kept it from police for hours until finally turning it over in a Ziploc bag. Sources also say the school would not let police perform follow-up interviews with students. School officials saying they had it under control.
We have an update now on that shooting after a high school football game in Newburgh. No arrests so far, but police have released a surveillance photo of 2 people they want to question. The shooting happened last night around 9:30 in the parking lot of Newburgh Freedom Academy in Orange County. Police say 3 people were taken to the hospital with injuries. All are expected to be okay. Still no word tonight on what caused that violence.
Also, police have issued a warrant for the person suspected in the shooting at McLean High School's homecoming game last week.
Police say 16-year-old Navian Lee Golden pulled out a gun and began firing after a fight broke out between a group of young men. Teron Yarborough took off running and was shot and killed. 3 others were also injured.
Now, today there was also an enhanced police presence outside the Jeremiah Burke School in Dorchester. This all coming a day after a 17-year-old student was accused of shooting another teenage student there. Today, that suspect again appeared in Dorchester District Court. The victim's aunt did speak with us outside of the courthouse, and she says the suspect should be tried as an adult, and she wants to see more security at schools.
I think that this is one of the things where some of the responsibility lies on the school
and the staff at the school, because if something happened then and somebody was stabbed, it shouldn't take for somebody to get shot for police to be on scene at the school today. It shouldn't take for somebody's parent to have to be sitting in a hospital with their child shot for anybody to step up and make a difference.
Now, the shooting happening on the front steps of the school at around 9:30 yesterday morning. The Burke does have metal detectors, by the way, but several parents and students telling us they are easily avoidable. Now, that student is recovering tonight at a Boston hospital.
Morgan to the 20. We're going to break.
Where's the shooter? Where's the high school? Where's the high school? My best friend was shot. Her name is Brianna Burrell. Hey, Brianna, she was shot? Yeah, she was shot in her right arm. They just shot somebody right in front of my car, and I had to call the police. Okay, who got shot, ma'am? I don't know who it is. They got the body on the ground. They just pulled up and started shooting. They got in their car and started shooting.
Copy, we're getting a call right now for a person shot at Whitmer. Caller said the shooter had on a black ski mask.
There was two of them. They had a black ski mask on, and they were wearing all black.
Very chaotic there. Now police are still looking for whoever it was behind those shots. We're told it appears this was a targeted shooting, but that some of the victims were caught in the crossfire. Investigators are still looking for this blue Dodge Charger they believe was involved in this shooting.
School had just let out at James Madison last Monday. Police say a crowd of students were outside when a person jumped in the crowd and hit a student with a gun. The gun fell to the ground, and it was picked up by someone else who turned the gun on the person and pulled the trigger. Not too long after, 4 miles away, police say a 17-year-old boy was dropped off at St. Joseph's. He was shot through the pelvis and grazed on his leg. The boy, Jamari Kelly, was charged last week. Prosecutors say video shows it was Kelly who pulled out a gun and pistol whipped a student. Court documents say Kelly told police he and some friends went to James Madison to attack the student because the victim jumped Kelly and his friends months ago.
Parents and officials speaking out after a woman was shot and killed in an elementary school pickup line less than 1 hour before dismissal. Now, just after 2 p.m., officials flew to the scene here at
Westover Hills Elementary School. Commonwealth's attorney Colette McKeechin declined to say whether the 17-year-old is being charged as an adult, nor would she release his name, saying, quote, "The privacy of all juveniles is paramount." Investigators say last Friday's shooting followed a fight between the suspect, 2 family members, and another man. They say the teen struck one man with a gun and then shot 26-year-old Amani Hill, who later died at a hospital.
A teenager has been arrested in connection to a deadly shooting that happened at Grant Union High School's parking lot back in October. Sacramento police say that the gun they believe to have been used was found inside the 15-year-old boy's home.
Sacramento police say a disturbance involving around 20 people, not believed to be students, ended in gunfire. A man in his 20s was shot and killed in the parking lot.
Our condolences to the family of the young man that lost his life.
Jefferson says finding a solution to curb gun violence isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. For the Del Paso Heights area, he says there must be a change in the community culture.
The chilling images playing out inside a St. Louis classroom terrified students running for their lives, and tonight authorities have revealed the gunman was another young person, and they say this was the AR-15 style weapon he used to kill a teacher and a 10th grader.
He came into the building with more than 600 rounds of ammunition on his person.
The police chief today reading excerpts from a disturbing handwritten note 19-year-old Orlando Harris, who graduated from the school last year, left behind in his vehicle.
I've been an isolated loner my entire life. This was the perfect storm for a mass shooter.
The 19-year-old fatally wounded in a shootout with police. He had already killed a sophomore and varsity dance team member Alexandra Bell. Her family heartbroken.
What made her amazing was no matter how mad or frustrated you were, she could always make that frown turn into a smile. She could always brighten up your day.
The gunman also killing 61-year-old health teacher Jean Kushka. The cross-country coach was a mother of 5 and grandmother to 7.
She put herself between them and harm, between them and danger. She was love. She was the embodiment of love.
7 other students injured, 4 grazed by bullets, 1 with a broken ankle after jumping from the building to safety.
Police all around. families flocking to Ingram High School.
Me and my friend looked at each other, and we both had this idea that, okay, we did hear a gun.
Students like Draven Hikiana were stuck inside on lockdown. Helicopters outside, while everyone's wondering the same thing. Are we safe? Meanwhile, down the road, SWAT teams were arriving, pointing guns towards a home.
Our SWAT team was at the residence, at a residence, I should say. But as far as the actual arrest was actually done by a mixture of King County Sheriff's deputies as well as our Harbor unit.
Seattle's police chief Adrian Diaz said that arrest came along 145th Street near a bus stop. Diaz tried to tamp down rumors of a second suspect while praising his officers for making it inside the school in a matter of minutes. Once in, they and Seattle Fire tried to save the victim. Sadly, the efforts failed.
We have two families that have been impacted. Somebody that is going to jail and somebody that has lost their life. So we know we can do better than this.
A man was shot in the back after a basketball game at Raymond High School. Hinds County Sheriff Tyree Jones doesn't believe the victim, Shannon McKenzie, was the intended target. McKenzie was taken to UMMC and his condition is unknown. At this time, there are no suspects.
Family and friends now grieving after 19-year-old Jermaine Brown was shot dead Saturday night. Police say it happened in a parking lot outside the Jones High School playoff game against Wekiva High School Saturday. Jack Fluker said Brown was like his younger brother and that he was on the right track.
Not in the streets, not doing no violence, he was doing what he was supposed to be doing.
Monday, we saw extra patrols at Jones High School. Orlando police said shots were fired Saturday after an argument in the parking lot between two groups. We've learned Brown was a graduate of Jones High School and was a member of My Brother's Keeper, which guides young men in the community. Stovelio Stovall said his grandson was also one of the victims shot Saturday in that parking lot. He said the violence needs to stop.
These young kids killing each other for stuff that makes no sense.
And today, Chief Eric Smith announced 2 of the 3 shooters were arrested. 17-year-old Jeremiah Cundiff for murder and a 15-year-old who we are not naming for attempted murder.
Joining gangs is not what we want. We want people to make better choices in life.
Smith says he knows who the 3rd shooter is. They're finishing up the final steps to make that arrest.
3 shooters and 4 victims? That's ridiculous. In a parking lot of a playoff football game? Shouldn't happen.
The Ball Police Department is investigating a shooting that took place on Camp Livingston Road this afternoon. The Ball Police Department confirmed to KALB that 2 people were shot on Camp Livingston Road. That's near Ball Elementary School. We're told that the 2 people that were shot were taken to a hospital and are both in police custody.
I just ran, and so I just happened to continue filming.
In the video, you hear a young boy telling Mr. Weller to stay down.
Yeah! Mr. Weller, I got your phone! Run, Mr. Weller! Mr. Weller, get down! Get down, Mr. Weller! Get down, Mr. Weller! What happened?
That's the voice of 7th grader Bobby Holloman.
I'm running, and I see Mr. Weller fall in front of me. And I saw he dropped his phone. I picked up his phone, and I said, I got your phone. I laid it on his chest, I pushed him down, got him down, and then I got down right beside him.
Those attending the game reported hearing multiple gunshots, but no one knew where they were coming from. Lumberton Police Department later reported that a 41-year-old female had been shot in the parking lot, and she was flown to the hospital. Multiple cars in the parking lot were also hit by bullets.
A student is now recovering in Vermilion County after being shot when a police officer's gun went off. Now, this happened at South Vermilion High School in Clinton, Indiana. That's 15 miles north of Terre Haute. School officials there say the officer's gun went off accidentally. The student was hit by the bullet and taken to a hospital, but we are told their injuries are not life-threatening.
Someone shot Chavez Collins after a game at South Division High School near 13th and Mitchell. And while police have not announced any suspects in this investigation, Collins' grandmother told us the past few months have been particularly hard.
The last 8 to 10 months has been very different for us. The streets consume my grandson.
You can hear relatives there in the background, obviously and audibly mourning.
A 15-year-old boy is recovering after being shot at Freedom Prep Charter School. Now, this is the location on Brownlee Road. We know the school was placed on lockdown when that shooting call came in around 12:30. There are a lot of questions right now. Police tell us after interviewing witnesses and the victim, it is unclear what exactly led to this teen getting shot, and we are told no arrests have been made and the gun has not been found.
During the lockdown on Thursday, as parents waited outside, some speculated that the shooter was still on the loose.
Are you kidding me? Oh, God!
In an update from police today, they inform us that the 14-year-old student was released and a 16-year-old in connection with the shooting turned himself in on Tuesday. The teen is facing multiple charges, including attempted first-degree murder. Police say a verbal altercation led to a fight, and seconds later, shots were fired, sending a 14-year-old boy to the hospital.
Been over 2 hours. Get hands off of her!
Anger, fear, frustration. Parents who rushed to Suitland High School after their children texted about this morning's shooting and lockdown wait for information.
How can they progress? How can they learn in a hostile environment? It's sad. It's absolutely sad. And I'm tired of talking.
Have you guys been receiving information, baby?
This mom on the phone with her daughter later rushes to the building and stopped by police after hearing the shooter may still be at large. More than 4 hours later, students are reunited with family.
Horrible. Like, y'all supposed to basically protect kids and y'all not doing a darn thing.
As parents, when we go to work, you don't know, obviously, you don't know like what's going to happen day to day. So it's like, it's scary.
I'm hoping and praying that they really take this serious and that they will respond appropriately.
I feel like there's nothing really you can do to save it besides just getting a whole new, security staff, get a whole new security system.
Tanya Brooks tells us that leaders were playing the blame game.
Who are they trying to put the blame on?
Anybody but themselves. It seems like all the blame is going on either the parents or the students.
We're learning more details about a shooting that happened earlier this week outside of Cleveland High School in Southeast Portland. Police say it was not a random act. The shooting happened on Monday around 12:30 in the afternoon. A 16-year-old student was shot but is doing okay. The school was immediately put in lockdown. Based on the investigation so far, detectives confirmed the incident was not a random act. Those involved in the shooting have been identified, but no one has so far been arrested.
Weeks after violence led students at Benito Juarez High School to walk out in protest, one of their former classmates is in jail.
And it's a tragedy of the highest order. I'm not going to comment any further, but thank you.
Prosecutors would only repeat words shared in bond court.
On 12/16 of 2022,
about 16-year-old Christian Acevedo.
He is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder.
On December 16th, prosecutors say Acevedo, a known gang member, was hanging outside Benito Juarez, a school that had expelled him. After school let out, prosecutors say Acevedo went up to a group of teens and asked one of them if he was a member of a rival gang.
Victim 1 asked the defendant why he wanted to know. The defendant walked a few steps away, but turned back around and shot the victim 1 in the head.
Police say Acevedo shot and killed 15-year-old Brandon Perez and 14-year-old Nathan Villegas. 2 other teens were wounded in the shooting in December. Prosecutors say Acevedo was captured on surveillance cameras and in a cell phone photo, standing over one of the victims' bodies with a gun in his hand.
Additional surveillance video captured the defendant fleeing the scene, last observed running north towards Cullerton.
Prosecutors say witnesses identified Acevedo as the shooter. Officers tracked him down on Thursday and made the arrest. Police searched Acevedo's home and recovered 4 handguns with extended magazines. 3 of them had switches which turned them into automatic weapons. If convicted of the crimes against him, Acevedo could face life in prison.
And here's one that was actually missed. What was presumed to be 51 school shootings, I found 52 school shootings. Here's the last school shooting of this video, which actually took place in September.
2 young men were shot outside the high school football field, sending players and fans scrambling for safety. Now, on Saturday, police arrested 2 suspects. A 15-year-old boy believed to be the shooter is still in custody. But on Tuesday, prosecutors confirmed that the 16-year-old who was arrested was released without charges pending further investigation. On Monday, the school district canceled classes for all secondary students after online threats were made. Now, they returned to class yesterday with Richfield police providing extra patrols. The district says counselors and social workers are available for students who may need to talk with somebody about what they've been through. Tom and Alex, a suspected gunman, has been in juvenile detention since he was arrested over the weekend. And yesterday, prosecutors did receive a 24-hour extension. That's why they have a little more time. But those charges need to be filed today or he will be released.
All right, so now let's go through the actual locations and demographics of the 2022 school shootings. So by far, Maryland had the highest number of school shootings with 5. Wisconsin had 4. Illinois had 3, along with Pennsylvania, Minnesota, California, Florida, and Texas. Massachusetts, New York, North Carolina, and Washington State all had 2. And then a bunch of other states had 1 school shooting. Now, when we go through the race, the actual race of the shooter, you see on 21 occasions, it was a black school shooter. And sometimes there were multiple school shooters, so in total there were 28 black school shooters, 23 unknown, 4 Hispanic, 9 total, because there were multiple school shooters that were Hispanic on multiple occasions. For Asians, it was 1, Middle Eastern 1, and white people surprisingly had 0 school shootings, according to what was known, because there are 23 cases where the shooter or shooters are unknown, their race at least. Was unknown, either because their identity was concealed or they were unable to catch the suspects.